Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today with me, I have my boy Matt. Matt has been a staple of the channel before, but I think that this is a momentous occasion for you. Obviously, the 49ers are in the NFC Championship Game, so I just wanted to bring Matt along to talk about a preview for the game because this is obviously a huge game. It determines who goes to the Super Bowl and represents the NFC. So I just brought Matt along to kind of talk because he is, a diehard Niners fan, as much as that makes me want to throw up. But Matt, before we kind of get into the game, this upcoming game against Detroit, what are some of your takeaways from the game against the Packers? It was a lot closer than some people would have thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was one of those games where you look back on it, and if you're losing a game, you're losing. You basically feel like the Niners are going to lose that game the entire way through. When you come away with a game like that, that's a success. It was just an ugly one. I always feel like every championship team always has an ugly, win. Like at some point in the playoffs, like not necessarily ugly, but like a really close game, right? So I feel like that was kind of my takeaway of it. Thinking about the actual game, I thought the Niners defense was awesome. It was one of the better games they've had. They had so many different stops. From late-ish third quarter on, they were lights out. Jordan Love really struggled. And while Brock Purdy struggled early on, he hit some big-time throws the final two drives. I know he missed the one to Ray down the sideline. If you look at the reaction of both Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan, they're livid at Ray. Like, it's not on Brock on that throw. Like, it was very clear. But outside of like after it got to, I think it was the final 2 or 3 drives. I think it was the final 2. Brock was absolute money. So like, if you're gonna have an off day on offense and you're gonna turn it on at the end, and your defense is gonna step up, like that's exactly what you need. So even though like it was ugly, like I think everyone can accept that it wasn't exactly a pretty win because a lot of people thought the Niners were going to kill them. The fact that they were able to hang in there and just kind of stay in the game all game and then just take over and win it in the fourth quarter, I thought that kind of spoke volumes to like I would say like the veteran leadership of the team, but also like just like these guys have been in these spots so many times. Like there's not many teams that have many guys that are like older like that have just kind of been in these same situations. So I think that's ultimately why they end up beating the Packers in that spot. Packers are a young team, like they're a talented team. The Packers can be good. The Packers can be good in the NFC. I feel like that's going to be the case for years to come. But this one was just one of those where it's like, all right, the Niners just absolutely balled out, and their veteran players stepped up.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the Packers' lack of inexperience, really hurt them down the stretch. And like you said, good teams are able to rally. Good teams are able to flip it on when they need to and win the game. Now, going and looking towards the NFC Championship Game, as a 49ers fan, is there any concern about Brock Purdy? Or maybe was it just the weather? Was it just an off night? Is there concern that he puts up maybe a similar performance, especially in those first 3 quarters, against the Lions this Sunday?
I don't think so. I mean, like obviously, like of course, like you can always not play that well, and I think a lot of people feel like Brock has just like sucked like a lot of these games. But, like I don't really think that's the case. I think the rain really affected him. Like he even said like he could barely grip the ball. And if you look at the way he's missing those throws, it's not like he's like missing guys. It's not like he's. I think he had one at the beginning of the game where like kind of threw it like towards the defender and the guy dropped it, but like he was just missing throws. And he's typically been a pretty accurate passer, especially downfield. So I think that was more about the weather than anything. It's going to be a sunny 70-degree game in Santa Clara on Sunday. So I don't know. I feel like their offense is going to do good. Also, the Lions' pass defense is absolutely abysmal, dude. Like I don't know if you've seen some of these stats. They have got carved up so much. And people will tell you like, oh, their run defense is really good. Well, I think a lot of that is just because their pass defense is so bad that teams like to throw on them, and it's like,
why run?
And also they get ahead, so like, of course they're going to be in those spots. But I don't think the Lions have good defense. Like I think, especially, and we'll probably talk about it a little bit, but especially if Debo plays, like, dude, if Debo plays, like their offense should cruise. It should be the storyline, and I was telling you this before. We can get into it now if you want, but the storyline or like the big key to this game is, can the Niners defense stop the Lions run game? Because the Lions' run game is one of the best, if not the best. Now, their O-line's banged up. I think it's Jonah Jackson is their left guard. And then Frank Ragnow, really, really, really good center. He's questionable. I think it's Jackson or Johnson, their left guard. But he's out, I want to say. And so if their interior is beat up, that's a huge win for the Niners. But that Lions' O-line is is so good, especially
Right.
rushing the football.
Yeah, I know Dan Campbell talked about it earlier. By the way, we're recording on Tuesday night, so we don't know the status of Deebo Samuel or maybe some of these other guys, just to clarify. But I saw Dan Campbell this morning
I mean, pretty much just Debo and Ragnow, right?
Yeah, just Deebo and Ragnow. I saw Dan Campbell talked about Ragnow this morning, and he basically said, hey, he's not going to be 100% for the NFC Championship game. But he says if he's like 70, 80%, that he'll tough it out. But again, even if you're getting Frank Ragnow on the field, you're getting 70, 80% of him, right? You're not getting 100% healthy Frank Ragnow. So that's big for the 49ers. And like you mentioned, obviously, Deebo as well. As it currently stands, we don't have an update. Last we heard was that it was 50-50. Me and Matt kind of talked about it before we recorded. We expect Deebo to play. I would find it fairly shocking if Deebo Samuel misses the NFC Championship game for a injury that he's questionable for. I think could just kind of tough it out. Worst case scenario, he's maybe a decoy the whole game. But Matt, question for you as a 49ers fan. What, in your opinion, is the key for the Detroit Lions to win this game? What do they have to do to go into Santa Clara and knock you guys off and go to the first Super Bowl in Detroit history?
They probably got to run the ball 35 times, get like almost 5 a clip.
Yeah.
And not turn the ball into can Jared Goff do it? Like, can Jared Goff beat him? Because what we've seen every time Jared Goff, and look, I think one of those was on the Lions, I believe. Maybe not. Maybe it wasn't even one of those. I think they might have all been on the Rams. But like, he wasn't always bad. He didn't always have bad teams on the Rams. But Jared Goff has really struggled against the Niners, and especially against their linebackers. Like, that's been a big storyline. So it's going to come down to running the football. And I think you could look at that, not as much for the Niners, because I think the Niners offense is just bound to be more explosive in this game. But if you eat up the clock, I mean, it's the same key. It's like they're very similar teams in the way of like what they want to do. They want to play extremely physical football. And while the Lions defense isn't good, like, they still want to do that on both sides of the ball. And they still have guys that can do that on both sides of the ball. And they want to run the football. They want to control the clock. So whoever is going to be able to do that is probably going to win. Now, that doesn't mean like, oh yeah, if you have a couple quick hitters, if the Niners have a 4-play, 2-minute drive, that's not like a bad thing, right? But if the Lions go out there and they have these 8-10-minute drives where they're running the ball and they're it's 15-play drives, that's when it starts getting scary for the Niners, because they're not a good team at playing from behind. Like, they won it last week, right? But like, we haven't seen them have that much success. I mean, you saw the stat that they showed, dude, and that is a Jimmy Garoppolo stat.
I was texting
it is
you
a
guys
Jimmy
about
Garoppolo
it,
stat.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's still not like what you want to see them do, because if the Niners get ahead and it has to start being a Jared Goff game, I think they're gonna kill him if that happens.
Exactly.
But
I think the Niners are finishers.
I don't know if it's going to get like that out of hand. I think it's going to be a relatively close game. But I think it's all going to come down to, are the Lions willing to, like, because sometimes they like to abandon the run, especially Ben Johnson's awesome, but he does like to abandon the run at times, and that almost honestly cost them the game last week. Like, they come into a spot, and I think it was 1st and 10, and they just dropped back, and Goff got sacked, right? Mm-hmm. And they end up giving the ball back to the Bucs at the end of the game. It's like, they should just run. They're one of those teams where I'm watching, I'm like, dude, you guys just need to run the ball like almost every single play. and you look at their offense, and that's what a lot of it's about. It's so play action based. Like, you have the tight ends, you have all these. If you watch the lines, like, they have so many guys that are just wide open on touchdowns, where it's like, oh yeah, look, Jared Goff checks, and then, oh look, no one's on this quarter of the field, and this guy's just like skipping into the end zone. Why? Because the run game is so good, and this safety or this linebacker completely bid on it. So you see that a lot, and I think if it gets to that, that's where it gets scary for the Niners, because they've had some games where they've spiraled a little bit. So that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, I would say that that's a huge key for the Lions as well. Running the football, like you said, no turnovers, absolutely no turnovers. That ended up being the Packers' undoing, giving the Niners, a couple extra possessions at the end of that game. I would say the other key for the Lions to win this game is to do what Green Bay didn't do, and what eventually cost them the game, is capitalize when you get to the red zone. It felt like for 3 quarters, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it felt like for 3 quarters, Green Bay had no problem working their way up and down the field. Jordan Love was dealing. Aaron Jones was running the ball very well. They were going up and down the field. But they got to the red zone, and they had to kick field goals. Or, in the case of that one drive, they went for it on 4th down, got stuffed on the QB sneak. the Lions, when
Yeah.
they get down the field, have to convert those into 7 points. They cannot be settling for field goals. Not against the 49ers, because like you said, this 49ers offense is too good, it's too explosive, and the Lions defense is too vulnerable to be, leaving 4 points on the board every time you go. So absolutely crucial that the Lions punch it in every single time they go to the red zone. I think that's my biggest key for the Lions. Now, as a team that is currently 7-point favorites by most bookies, I don't think that the Lions, not that they don't have a chance. They absolutely do have a chance, but I think that things definitely need to go more in their favor for them to win. In terms of the 49ers winning, what are some things that they need to avoid in order to give this game away to Detroit? Because I think we all know how they win the game, right? They give it to their skill guys. Brock Purdy doesn't turn the ball over. Their defense plays well. What would be some things that if the 49ers lose, you probably point back to and say, hey, they gave this game away to Detroit?
I mean, obviously turnovers, right? Like, that's a given. We saw that in the Ravens game. The Niners offense actually had like good numbers, and like they actually had like good yards per play and stuff like that, but they turned the ball over 5 times.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, are you going to lose that game? Probably 100%. Like, legit, like a 100% if you lose the turnover battle by 5. Yep. But even in a different way, you look at this last week, like the Niners didn't have a turnover. It got really ugly. But like, think about it. If Brock throws a pick or if someone fumbles in one of those spots, especially like second, third quarter, that game could have totally fallen apart. Yeah, it could have totally fallen apart. Now, what did happen in that Ravens game that I don't think a lot of people remember is that the Niners turned the ball over a bunch, right? At first, like the first 2 picks Brock had, right? But the Ravens didn't really capitalize. Like, the game was close. Mike, do you remember watching that? Like, and that's this is just the example of them like falling apart. The Niners defense is so good in the red zone. Like, that's where it's really come up clutch this year. Like, and also like running the football. You brought up Aaron Jones. I don't know if you know this, but if you take away Aaron Jones' like crazy run, he averaged like barely over 3 yards a carry. Like, he actually didn't have that good of a game.
True.
Now Jordan Love was hitting guys. A couple of them, it's like guys slipped. Like it was kind of that stuff. But it felt like they were getting into the red zone relatively easy, and then the Niners were making some big defensive stops.
Yes.
And that's what their defense has done for the last 5-6 years. Like, they've just consistently made these big time defensive stops. So something that I think they have to do is they need to get one of those, and they need to just play clean football. If they play clean football on offense and they're scoring, their defense is bound to have a couple plays. They are. That's just how they've always played. So I think that'd be the biggest thing, and I think not having long drives on the Lions side, because that's where I felt like when they've struggled this year, it's when teams are just holding the football and they don't have it, because you want that offense on the field. Like, I get that, like, maybe from like a national perspective, like you just saw Brock Purdy not look that good. Keep in mind, it's a rainy game. They lost Debo, right? And then like the time that you saw them before that was what? The Ravens game, right?
Right.
I think we forget that this offense was the best offense in the league by like almost every metric,
Right.
Like, outside of like a couple games, like, and most of the time they're running up the score on teams. So like, if you just get them on the field, if you get the ball back quick, I mean, the Lions are bound to have a couple. They're gonna score,
Yeah.
But if you don't let them have these super long drives, it's gonna get hard, and your defense is gonna make a couple plays where it's like, yeah, your defense played great, and maybe they allow like 20-something points, but like, if you give your offense a couple turnovers, you could put up 40. Like that's how this game might play out. So I think that's where I'm looking at it. Like, you just can't make the mistakes, because the second you start making the mistakes, the second you get down by a little bit, that's not where the Niners want to be. The Niners are a team that gets ahead and then they roll teams, and it's hard to come back on them. They're a really hard team to come back on.
They are, because once they have you down, they put their foot on your throat. Like, they do not let you get up, right? They will absolutely milk the shit out of the clock with McCaffrey the rest of the game if they have to. Like, it's so hard to come back on the 49ers. But then on the flip side, you guys get down. Hypothetical scenario here, Matt. You guys get down. Detroit's offense is humming. Jared Goff is slinging the ball. You're down, 10 points, third quarter, maybe fourth quarter. Do you have confidence in Brock Purdy in a big spot in the NFC Championship game to have to throw the ball when the Lions know he's going to throw the ball, to get you guys back into the game?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I do, because I feel like a lot of people feel like Brock is like, I mean, I've told you, Mike, like, I'm not like super crazy high on Brock like you see some 49er fans say.
Yeah.
I think he's good, but I think the thing about him is, like, I'll tell you this. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets in that spot and throws a pick. Like, he throws it up. But the thing is, he's going to throw it up. Like, he's going to give your guys a chance. Like, it's going to come down to, like, your guys making a play or not, which I like. And, you know, he does get a little wild with the football sometimes, like, but he's also the type of guy that will throw a pick and, like, then he will just kind of, like, bounce back. Like, he is completely unfazed a lot at times.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what I think it is. Like, I have faith in him. But obviously, like, that's not how you want them to win. Like, you feel so much safer when it's McCaffrey running the football.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, obviously, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want to see them get to that point. That's kind of where my thought process is like, yeah, like, I feel confident in Brock, but, like, anytime. Like, look at last week, dude. Last week was a nerve-wracking game that you wouldn't have really expected to have happen, you know? And it's like, you get to that point, you're like, all right, well, he did it.
Yeah.
As bad as, like, as hard as it was for him to hit throws early on, it was time to clutch up, and he did exactly that. And I saw that, like, there was some thing where it's like this year, right? This year's stats on Brock where it's like, oh, when he's in the fourth quarter, when he's down, whatever, his numbers are terrible. All right, like, one, they haven't really been down. So
True.
The sample size is ridiculously small. But if you go to last year, he was absolute money every single time in those spots. And that was why, like, going into the playoffs last year, I was even more confident in the Niners team than I was this year. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming they had a better record this year. But they were just so, like, on fire. I mean, they won, like, 9 games. I forgot how many games they won. They won a bunch of games at the end of the season.
I think they won, like, 8 or 9 in a row, yeah.
And they had games where, like, they struggled, dude, in 23, right? No. 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a game late in the season where they struggled against the Raiders, and they were down. And it's the Raiders, but, like, you're down by, like, 14 points in the third quarter, 13 points. I think that's what it was. And Brock just balled out, and they won the game because of him. You know, and that's not a great defense, but also, like,
that was Jared Stidham started that game, right, for the Raiders, I believe.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And he did good. He did really good. And that was the thing. It was like, we haven't seen this guy.
3 touchdowns or something.
Yeah, like, their offense cruised, and, like, it came down to him balling out, you know? So, like, that's the thing is, like, maybe you didn't see that a lot this year, but, like, he did that. He's also played a lot of football. Like, that's something I feel like is kind of underestimated, is, like, he's comfortable in a lot. Like, the Niners are comfortable with him in a lot of spots.
Yeah.
When you used to watch it with Jimmy, Kyle was not confident in Jimmy whatsoever.
Mm-mm.
So, this time around, like, you can just tell in the play calling. And the thing that was funny is, like, you could tell, like, 2 weeks in that Kyle was way more confident in Brock in the play calling than he ever was with Jimmy, which I always thought was hilarious, because it was like, dude, this took 2 weeks. Like,
well,
in the Super Bowl, they were afraid to push the ball downfield when they played the Chiefs. And guess what? That wasn't the wrong decision. Like, that was the right move, because Jimmy probably would have thrown a pick.
Well, or he'd overthrow Emmanuel Sanders like he did at the end. But Kyle's probably thinking, well, at least Brock doesn't run out of the back of his own fucking end zone every time. You know, we're in a back-to-goal situation.
Oh, my God, dude.
Last question for you, Matt, before we get into our final game predictions. How much of a schematic difference will it make for the 49ers offense if Deebo Samuel is not on the field? Because I think that they obviously didn't anticipate that going into last week. You saw Juwan Jennings get a carry. I think it was the first drive of the third quarter. And then I think I kind of saw a shift in their offense where they kind of got rid of the Deebo package, so to speak, because he wasn't out there. If he's not playing for the 49ers, in what way does it change the 49ers' scheme and their game plan?
I mean, you saw it hurts him in kind of just, like, it really hurts him in the screen and, like, everything around the line of scrimmage. Which I feel like when you do that, like, when Deebo's there, him and Ayuk and McCaffrey, like, specifically those three, work so well together, because, like, they all do different stuff. Like, McCaffrey obviously does it all, right? But he's coming out of the backfield. Like, he's just a different kind of player. He's obviously, like, big, you know, like, it's just a little bit different. With Deebo, it's like basically from Debo, like everything that he gets is around the line of scrimmage, whether it's, little slant passes, but it's pretty much like him in motion, him doing this, him doing whatever, and then every once in a while they'll take a deep shot to Debo. That's kind of his role. While Ayuk is doing everything separating downfield.
Right.
And when Debo's in the game and Ayuk's in the game, like it's really nasty when you have the 1 and the 2.
Yeah.
When you have both of them out there, So it's like, but I also think like it's still massive to have Debo out there, even if Ayuk's been the better receiver the last couple years, right? Because it's like, okay,
True.
well, dude, yeah, but look what this guy does in the run game. Look what this guy does to the linebackers. Like, they're both so important. And you're at a spot in the year where you're in the NFC Championship, dude. You need all of your guys. You need all of your dudes. And that's the big thing where it's like, it's massive. It's absolutely massive. Last week, Juwan Jennings absolutely stepped up, made some ridiculous catches. Took a dude to the bleachers, looked like a monster.
To the Gatorade, yeah.
Went full dog mode as Jawan kind of has always done throughout his whole football life. But like it'll be very interesting to see just because you need Debo, bro. If they don't have Debo, like they lose a big part of their offense, and that's the thing. Like it all matters, like it's all gonna matter. Is it as big as losing Trent? No. Of course not.
Or
McCaffrey, no.
Yeah, McCaffrey, yeah.
Yeah, like it's like no, but like it still matters a ton,
Right.
And
Right.
it's gonna just also like the Lions don't have good secondary players. Like that's where they have got cooked this year. Debo is the mismatch, like Debo is the mismatch. Ayuk is the mismatch. Like McCaffrey on Alex Anzalone is also a ridiculous mismatch.
Jesus Christ.
Same with George Kittle. Like, so you can even make the argument that like, hey, maybe it's not as big of a deal because you got George and McCaffrey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just in this one, but it's like it's still, dude, it's still gonna matter. Like, you're still gonna get Debo on Anzalone or whoever it is, right? You're still gonna see that matchup. Or even though I like him a lot, Jack Campbell, he's a rookie, dude. Like,
yeah.
Debo's a little bit different of a dude than a lot of the guys he's seen.
And if there's one thing that Shanahan does, it is just absolutely murder the middle of the field. So for a rookie,
yeah, and it's like
for a rookie to be in that spot, it's just so hard.
Hey, watch this dude. Like Kyle just sees a couple things on film. Like, look, this dude Jack Campbell's gonna fall for this and this, and it's gonna be like, oh no, and then it's like, oh, like he's gonna start feeling I'm getting put in the blender. Like that's where it can get kind of sporadic when you have them all. But when you don't have them all, like their offense has not been as effective when they don't have all of them. But of course not. Like you got all these dudes, like that's kind of what the NFL's become, where it's like the NFL has become such a different type of game where it's like, I mean, we've especially seen it with the Bengals the last few years, where it's like they have 3 receivers and a good back. So I don't know. I think it matters a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. Last thing, we'll get into some score predictions. So I'll give you mine, then you can, give your rebuttal, give your whatever. What are you thinking if I told you I think the 49ers win this game 28-20?
I think 28-20 is a pretty realistic score prediction. Like I said, like I don't think the Lions are a bad team. I think the Lions are gonna play well. I think this is like, yeah, the Niners. I guess like people are like, hey, like they're bound to blow out one of these teams. We still got to see who's playing, but it could all. I mean, I could see the Lions winning this game. Like they absolutely could. So 28-20 is, that's pretty good. Like you're in a good spot, and 28-20 can go 2 very different ways too, Mike.
Yeah.
That can be it's 21-20 at the end of this game, and then you score and you put it out of reach, and you get a big pick at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's one where it's like, yeah, it's 28-17 or whatever, and they get a field goal like with like 6 minutes left, but you've just been killing them or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like
they just milk the clock.
Or it's 28.
Yeah, just milk the clock afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, like you've been ahead for a while and your offense is good. I think that's a pretty good score prediction, honestly. If I'm predicting, I'm probably gonna predict the Niners to win even by a little bit less. Like I think the line of 7 is kind of a lot. I think the Lions run game is good, and I think like the Niners interior defensive line. I mean, they've been missing Eric Armstead for a large part of the season, but they've been that great in the run game. They're going to be relying on Sebastian Joseph Day, who hasn't been there that long, because he's one of their better run stuffers. Like It is a mismatch for them. So you got the Niners on a good mismatch. The good thing for the Niners is that Fred's healthy. Dre's kind of healthy, but he also played awesome last week, so I'm just going to say he's healthy. You got those two guys. They're the ones plugging the gaps. You got good edge play. Like, you got different other guys. You got Armstead back. Like, you got your guys back, and that's what's important for the Niners defense is that they also haven't been playing with, like, fully healthy a lot of the year, and now they're finally rested. They're finally ready to go, and they looked really good last week. They looked really good because if they didn't play a very, very good football game on their end, the Niners are not in this game. It is a Packers-Lions game right now. So I feel really confident about their defense more than I have this season because I think this has been one of the years where they've struggled more on defense than other years. And they're not like they're struggling, but like it's been a little bit more iffy. Mm-hmm. And Steve Wilkes has not been the same as DeMeco Ryans, and there's definitely been an adjustment period. So, I think the Lions are going to hang around. I think it's going to be a good football game. I think both the championship games are going to be close. I think they're going to be a one-score game. If I'm going to predict anything, I'll go Niners 35, Lions 20, 30. Yeah, Lions 35-30. That's what I'm going to go.
So
35,
a lot higher scoring.
We talked about
game.
that, but we talked about that red zone defense, right?
Yes.
Like that's big,
Yes.
And I think that's what's going to be what's going to win it if this offense comes out and is ready to play for both teams. Like I think that's what's going to be the difference. Especially who can hang on to the ball the longest,
True.
And maybe that's a bad score prediction, honestly, because I could easily see both these teams coming in with the mindset of we're gonna milk the clock, and it looks like it's a 21-17 game. But they're scoring on a lot of the drives. Right. It's just like, hey, like
you're getting these like 12.
These are all 8-minute drives.
Yeah, exactly. I think that'd be smart if that's how especially if the Lions wanted to play that, because the Lions, they got to really look at their team and say we don't have the personnel, especially in the defensive backfield, to play solid defense. We're just gonna limit the possessions. We're gonna, not let them on the field as much. And then, like you said, if they can have those long sustained drives and capitalize in the red zone, I think they'll be in a good spot. So,
well, one other thing with that, just real quick, final piece for me. That will be very interesting, too, if they come out like that, because that's going to be so big for the Niners on first and second down to slow down the run game and get to third downs. Mm-hmm. Problem is, their defense has really struggled at times on third down. Now, the good thing is that you can kind of tee off on Jared Goff a little bit, at least hopefully, and Jared Goff is susceptible to crumbling against good defenses. Like, that is the thing. That is a big part of this game where it's like, if you slow down the run game, if the Niners slow down the run game, I don't think the Lions have a chance. That is my thought on it. However, I don't think that's going to happen, So, like, that's why I'm excited for this game, dude. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think you have good coaching on both sides. You have very talented teams. You have one unit that's not good, and that's the Lions defense. And I think that's probably going to be the difference, but it's football, dude. Any given Sunday. So
any given Sunday now. And I know I speak for most of America when I say go Lions, obviously. We don't want the 49ers in the Super Bowl just so we can perpetuate the Brock Purdy game manager narrative, obviously. But on a serious note, as a hater, I will be rooting for the Lions. And, they're just a good story. They really are just a great story. They hadn't won a playoff game for 30 years. Of
course.
And now they're 60 minutes away from going to the Super Bowl. I mean, that's just an awesome story. But thank you for coming on and talking about the NFC Championship game. I really appreciate your insight. I think that we had a good episode talking about a lot of the analysis of the game. I'd say good luck, but I'm rooting against you, so no good luck, unfortunately, this week, Matt. But appreciate you coming on. I'm going to link below kind of some of your stuff that you're doing with Play Action so that other people can go and follow you guys. You guys make good content on YouTube and TikTok, so make sure to check out Matt. Matt, if you have any final thing to say, I'll let you have the floor. Otherwise, we're just going to end the video.
First of all, go Niners. Second of all, I hope the Brock Purdy game manager stuff gets kind of ended a little bit. Now, like, he is kind of a game manager, but also, like, he does hit some big-time throws. Like, we got to give this dude some credit and just stop consistently hating on him. Like, I get that some people overrate him, but there's, like, so many people that just... I've talked about this too with Mike. So many people just hate Brock Purdy. Yeah. I'm like, dude, there's no reason to hate this guy like you guys do.
Like, you should have. That's the reason I hate him.
We should have hated.
That's it.
Yeah, but Jimmy Garoppolo should have been the guy that got all the hate like this. I feel like Brock Purdy gets more hate than Jimmy did. And he's so obviously better, you know, like it's annoying.
Looking, that's why. It says people just like looking at Jimmy, so they didn't want to shit talk him.
I guess, dude. But it's like, dude, why do we hate this like story of this like the last pick in the draft? Like, why do we hate this?
Yeah, he looks like a
so
kid.
much?
It's like we're all just flaming this. He comes in. I was talking to my friend the other day. He comes in. He walks around. You ever see him in like pregame? He walks around like he's going to like third period math. Like he's got like his backpack, his flannel shirt. Like
yeah, but he gets locked in, bro.
No,
he gets locked in right before.
No, he does, dude. But he looks like he's like a college freshman, like going to his like econ class or something. Like it's just so funny. And then you got like Debo and stuff like throwing up the gang signs and then busting with the boombox and everything. Like it's just hilarious. Like it's just such a funny parallel. And especially like with Jimmy. Jimmy would come in with like the the aviators. He'd be rocking like the leather jacket, like like just a complete night and day. But all right, I'm gonna end the video on a Brock Purdy rant, of course. But thank you for coming on. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I will have a video coming out about my AFC playoff preview, or I'm sorry, AFC Championship Game preview with my boy TTB Ravens Media. So make sure to stay tuned for that. But signing off. Peace out. Thank you guys for watching.